Hello, welcome back to Great Day Tuscaloosa. I remember this young man so well from our Channel 33 days when Martin Houston came out and did interviews with our sports team and at Doug Holton and Rob Martin and all those.
You take me back.
All those guys, yeah. There was some special times there under Coach Gene Stallings, and Martin Houston, of course, was a household name for 1,000-yard rusher, and you won the national championship.
That was my senior year.
Your senior year. Wow. I want to talk about that. We got lots of time today, but the pride of Center Alabama, Cherokee County Warriors, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
So that's where you were. Actually, you were not. Center is your home, but you actually lived out in the suburbs of Center.
Yeah. I actually grew up in a community called Howell's Crossroads, and it was actually known as the Hole. Literally called the Hole, and the reason it got that name was it was one way in, the barely paved road. The roads were the gravel and the tar.
Oh yeah.
That's the pavement that we had, and then literally, if you went in, you had to turn around and come back out because there was nothing but woods and trees.
I can hear the tires now.
That's right.
That gravel, turn around and back out. So I imagine, was it a goal or dream of yours to play for the University of Alabama?
Well, not necessarily the University of Alabama. It's kind of an interesting story. Grew up, I'm a nerd, and my brother always reminded me that I need to thank God he gave me football, or I'd be America's biggest nerd. And being a nerd is okay. They have most of the jobs.
That could be a great reality show, America's biggest nerd.
Yeah, but I started playing football just because I was a big kid. But I can remember my middle school coach sitting down and telling me that I could play football in the SEC. Mm-hmm. And just to tell you how much the world changed, I didn't even know what that meant. And I'd always dreamed of playing the Cowboys, but didn't know anything. Cowboys were in the 70s, yeah. So, but the whole college thing was not even a part of that kid dream. It was just getting to the NFL. But once that happened, it put me on a path that changed the decisions I made, how I carried myself, because college became important. Mm-hmm. And that's why I tell people, you don't ever know that one moment that coach took to tell me that one thing has literally changed my life, my direction, and so many others of all the people. And so you just never know in that one moment, that one word of encouragement can literally change a destiny or direction for not just that person, but many others.
They said you could play in the SEC, so I'm sure you're recruited by many other SEC schools.
Yes.
So why Alabama?
Well, ironically, I was recruited more heavily by the other school across the state, Auburn, and I had an opportunity to be recruited by them, but Coach Perkins, recently, of course, deceased, didn't recruit me to Alabama. Had the idea to Auburn, and then Bill Curry got the job. And ironically, once again, those small things that lead to destiny. Chip Wisdom came with him from Georgia. Yes. Well, he had recruited my high school in the 70s. And when he got the job here, he said, I wonder if they have any athletes up there now. Literally, he came to see me because of guys who had played for Georgia in the late 70s. And then he got the job here. Ironically, I was going to probably commit to NC State. And the weekend I was scheduled to go up there, it snowed and my plane got canceled. And the next week I came to Tuscaloosa and I decided to commit to Alabama that weekend, January 16th, 1988, and I've been here ever since.
Wow. And that's a great story. And there's so many things that we don't know at times, but God has a purpose.
That's right.
And I'm thinking about with Coach Bryant, if it weren't for, Coach Bryant would have been Arkansas's head coach, but then a little twist happened, I think, and he ended up coming to Alabama. So those things happen.
Small things that can have, eternal impact.
Absolutely.
But definitely a long-term impact for me choosing to come to Tuscaloosa.
Well, and obviously, I'm thinking of Coach Stallings today, and what a great man he is. And know, when we first moved here to the Hampton Inn, we got a surprise call from him live on the air, welcome us to the Hampton.
Surprised me.
And that's him, isn't it?
That's him, totally.
So what made this relationship? I know Coach Stallings introduced you when you announced your bid for mayor. Talk about your relationship with him.
You know, a lot of people think that that's just about football, but it's so much more than that. I was married for 3.5 years while I played football here, and so as a young husband and father, you have to start picking role models of who you want to emulate. And so Coach Stallings taught me more about how to be a husband, how to be a father, and how to be a hard worker, and how to raise your children than any single individual
Oh my goodness.
in my life. And I love my dad, but Coach Stallings was at that point in my life every day when I got married. And so a lot of people think that intro is just about football, but that is about having someone who's known me my entire adult married life. And a quick side joke is my first year, I got married under Bill Curry, and then Stallings was there, and it was my first anniversary. We got married on Thanksgiving Day, and I was trying to get out of practice early. And I asked Coach, could I leave? And he said, I didn't mind, Mark. He said, how many anniversaries have you had? I said, this will be my first one, Coach. He said, when you get 25, let me know and I'll give you the day off. Well, of course, you know we had our 25th anniversary right after I'd had my 25th. The football team had the 25th anniversary of the championship.
Yes.
Right at the same time I'm having my 25th. So we come up. I come up to him and I said, Coach, I just wanted to let you know I got 25 years in. And he said, you take tomorrow off. And he was probably serious that he was really he was literally giving me the day off. So, but anyway, but it was about watching him during that time and since. And you look at the family he's raised and the relationship he had with John Mark and the impact John Mark had on us as players. And so it was so much more than, it was great to have my coach do it, but it was more than just the coach doing it. That was probably my biggest influence on how I have lived my life, raised my family, and loved my wife.
Well, if you know Gene Stallings, you would know that. Because
Yes.
it's much more than football.
Correct.
With him. But I also want to say, I was a big Bill Curry fan too. You know, I liked him as a man.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know him as a coach or anything, but he did some, 10 and 1?
Yeah, you know, it's always funny when people, when they don't know who recruited you, I've had people come up and say, well, you know, all but that Bill Curry time, and I always go, well, Bill Curry is the one that recruited me, and Lassick, and when I start naming all of the guys that were seniors on the national championship team, they said, well, he recruited a few good ones.
I liked him as a person.
Absolutely.
You know? He was
I
so,
liked him too.
so approachable.
Yeah.
But he got him. You know, Alabama fans are tough.
You have to beat that across the state rival.
That's it.
He won. His record went up every year, but he could not get over the Auburn hump. And
ask Bill Battle about that in Tennessee years ago.
Yes, sir.
He never beat Alabama.
Yep, it'll get rid of you no matter how good the other records are.
No matter how good. Now, it is a tough decision. I've been there in 1997. Woke up one morning, wanted to run for council. The next morning, no way, and my stomach hurt. I didn't know what was the right thing to do, and I was most concerned about where Alberta was headed. So I finally made that decision. Woke up one day, felt great. I think the good Lord just said, gave me great comfort to say, do it. And I did it, and I've never regretted it since. When did you make this decision to get into politics, first of all, and then to run for mayor?
Well, I kind of went through that same journey. People started approaching me this summer and asking, and I was like, no. And I literally said no, I don't know how many times. And people, of course, know me being a man of faith. They would go, well, pray about it. And I was like, okay, I'll pray about it. And then I pray about it, and I come back and I say no. but every time I would try to close the door, it would open and somebody else would say it, and I really didn't want to. I mean, it was not something I was desiring. I'm as successful in my business life, pastor of my church, my radio. Life is really good. My wife and I had just been talking about our youngest son is graduating this year, so we get ready. It's about to get.
Yeah.
And so, kind of that same journey. Someone that knows me pretty well said, "If you haven't fasted, and I know you, and you always fast on big decisions." And I said, "I know. I'm afraid if I fast." They said, "Why?" I said, "I'm afraid if I fast, he might say yes." And so I did a fast, and every obstacle, kind of like Moses, every obstacle I would put up of why I couldn't run and why I shouldn't run was removed. So ultimately, the reason I said yes, Kip, was because I feel like this is something this time this season that God's called me to. Why did I do it? Because I love Tuscaloosa, and I believe that my life, compiled resume, whatever you want to call it, puts me in a position to lead Tuscaloosa to where I believe Tuscaloosa can go. I believe that Tuscaloosa is a good city. I have no problem with it being a good city. I think Tuscaloosa has the backbone to be a great city, but it can't be a great city until all the residents of Tuscaloosa are being a part of it. And right now, we have 24%, according to a link from our very own website, almost 25% of our citizens are below the poverty line. And that's just, we have got to address that, amongst other things. But in short, I'm running because I love Tuscaloosa, and that's probably no different than every other candidate that's running. But I believe that my background, my experience, my leadership style will allow me to serve and empower the people of Tuscaloosa to reach their maximum potential. And that's my opinion.
I watched your announcement and heard you speak of this, and so what would you say? I know, Lord, help us. I can't keep up with all the forms and all the questionnaires that we've had to fill out.
Yes.
In fact, I've had to skip over a few of them. Just telling you, it's hard to keep up with. What would you say? Talking about the poverty, what are some solutions that you have, or things that you feel like you need to be better?
Well, I think you have to have an overall master plan. I don't think you just go attack poverty because you need to. Right. You have to put in a plan that is systemic and able to be repeated. One-off doesn't do it, and I think that's what we address a lot of things in our city, in our life. Is we'll address it, and for that one group, it works. But there's no system. I call it a lattice when I'm in the business world. You have to put a lattice in place. And I believe a lattice starts with a overall master urban planning and development plan that looks at strategic land use, that looks at visionary economic business and development, that plans our infrastructure for growth and maintenance. I'm looking at some numbers, and we have some maintenance challenges ahead for us as a city. And then last but not least, I believe you have to have a sound fiscal policy that makes all of that kind of work together, so that when things come in, or developers come in, or people move in, you know where you can grow, when you can grow, and how you can grow. And if you don't have that master plan, think about your individual life. If you don't plan your individual life, somebody will plan it for you, and they'll give you a direction you want to go. I think the same thing can happen with the city. And so that's kind of the overall. And then I'll give you four things that I think are pillars, and then a few initiatives. I think we need to be the best, and that is business and economic development has to be diversified. We have to diversify. We have not been able to successfully, in combination with the EDA and Chamber and other municipalities, we've not been able to recruit another major industry outside of our automobile manufacturing as a whole. And we need to diversify. And we need to look at knowledge-based, software-based type of of industries, and I heard someone say, well, that's easy to say, but it needs to be specific. Well, I'm the type, if I don't have all the information, I can't give you specifics, but I do know that if I'm elected, I'll sit down with University of Alabama, Stillman College, and Shelton to find out what are the top graduates you're putting out, and then make sure that we build some industry around that, workforce around those things where one of our big challenges right now, we can't keep our workforce filled, and we have 3 great colleges / universities. So that would be one thing. And there's a lot more to that. We can dig deeper if you want. If you want to find out more information, they can always go to the website HoustonForTuscaloosa.com. The next thing is educational excellence. Tuscaloosa should be a top 5 school district. It should be we're a top 5 city, and you may say, well, the mayor isn't directly involved with the school system. It's one of our largest budget items. We're directly involved. and I would not take over the school system in any sort, but I come alongside the existing administration to figure out how do we get better in terms of the school system. And then one sidebar that really I've not heard a lot of people talk about that I'm really concerned about is the impact of COVID on there's proven record that if you're not at reading level by 3rd grade, when you go to the 4th grade, you statistically, your chances of dropping out of school, crime, teen pregnancy, all of these other things happen. And we have 2 classes that 2nd graders last year that didn't get that core of the end of the year, and now we've had a whole class this year, and I think we need to find something to bridge that gap. So educational excellence, I think we need to start focusing, Kip, on graduating college-ready graduates or career / workforce-ready graduates. And we've done some things, but we need to emphasize that more. And then the next one is safe and secure communities. And a lot of times when you say that, the first thing people think about is you're talking about police. Well, police is part of safe and secure communities, but all of the first responders as well as the community. 2 of the statistics from 2019 that show a tick up was robberies and auto thefts. And from my reading and studying of that, it appears that a lot of those some were crimes of opportunity. Doors were unlocked, etc. So the citizens also not just improve the police force and not just improve firefighters, not just help them, but also make sure as citizens we're working together. And then I think you have to build a great ongoing relationship between first responders, all of them, and the citizens, so that they're not just showing up. You ever had that coach or that teacher that only gets on to you when you do wrong?
Oh yeah.
Well, you don't like that teacher.
Yeah.
But if they spend the whole time with you when you're doing good, when things are okay, then when they get on to you, you know that there's a relationship there and they care. And that's a mutual thing. It's not a one or it's both and. And so safe and secure communities and some small things. I think I've even seen you mentioned about lighting, sidewalks, out in your area where I mean just people being able to walk from point A to point B on a sidewalk with lights.
Exactly.
It may not be a big deal to some, but to others that's a big deal if you're the one that's having to travel in that less than safe environment. And then the last thing is we have to be transparent and accountable. That's kind of the best, and one of the things that I want to do is make sure everybody has a seat at the table, and then do a morning manna, similar to what you're doing right here. It'll be morning manna with the mayor, where I will sit down once a week and just talk to people where we're at. They can ask questions.
Like a fireside chat.
Yes, sir. And then and use technology to give people access that they normally would not have had. And then 3, I call them citywide initiatives that I think kind of bolster that is we need to have youth division that are getting our youth engaged, educated, equipped, and empowered in physical activity, mental activity, and social activities, whether it's arts, whether it's sports. We always think about sports, but I'm talking about arts, educational tutoring, the STEM, building off of not just the school, but make that a part of the city initiative, and then also working on getting some summer jobs. Get some of these kids working during the summer. They may not. We may have a so
I know.
Yeah, youth division, then financial wellness initiative. One of my responsibilities at Alabama One as a senior director is I oversee financial wellness. And I've seen personally, from my own experience, as well as working with so many individuals, the power of not just having money, but how you spend money, how you save money, how you use credit, how you do all of those things. We need that in citywide. And then last but not least, and I think this would definitely be something that, you know, District 5 can relate to and many other districts can, is attainable housing. I don't like the word affordable
I
housing.
don't either.
I don't like
I don't
workforce
either.
housing. I like attainable
I
housing.
don't like affordable.
Attainable housing. The reason I like that name, Kip, is because what's one of the things you always dream of? Owning your own house. And so if we can help people attain that dream, and people might say, well, how do you do that? Well, part of that is come up with some incentives for maybe down payments, because in the financial industry, working there, I have found that many times it's not that people can't afford to make the monthly payments, they can't afford to get entrance and access. So we need to increase the inventory of attainable housing. We need to increase the access to attainable housing and work with private-public partnerships to make that happen.
Martin, what have you learned as a candidate? What have you learned about people, and what do you think they're most concerned about that you hear?
Well, that's really kind of drove the best. Every person I've talked to has said something about safety, and just wanting a safe and secure community. Education opportunity has been virtually everyone for a couple reasons. Our education is right now is perceived, whether it's still true or not. At one point, I know we had 2 failing schools at the high school level. The perception is that we still have that, whether it's real or not.
The perception is still there.
And the perception is reality. And I know I work in insurance as well at Alabama One, oversee that department. And I know that people are told when they come, hey, the question that businesses ask and the question that individuals ask when they want to move to Tuscaloosa is, how's your education system? And everybody drives them toward Northridge. And that's not Northridge's fault. That we need to figure out how do we make sure that our entire city, wherever you live in the city, wherever you live, you can live anywhere in the city and know that your child is going to get a top-notch education at the high school level. That's why I said we need to be a top 5 school district. You won't be top 5 if any of your schools are failing. You're gonna have to, and I'm talking about from elementary all the way through. So that would be the biggest thing. And then just jobs and diversification of jobs. Now, when you say job, you have to be careful, because I think in the county there's 4,000 vacancies. But it's not enough to just create jobs. You also have to make sure you build a bridge, and I call them workforce academies. Whether we get private, public, or combination of the industries themselves. Mercedes does it with Shelton. These kids go to Shelton, and then we need that. That needs to be deployed throughout, because there's people who need jobs, and there's companies who need employees, but there's a gap between the two. And if you would bridge that gap, and I believe Workforce Academy can do that. Premier Services, they're doing something similar at the old TCT, the old vocational school called Skilled Workforce, Skilled Trades of West Alabama, where they're bringing in people and training them on be plumbers and electricians and HVAC people.
You'll make the big money.
Yes, absolutely. I've had several professors tell me when we were talking about education, they said, Martin, if you can get people workforce ready and those skills, they'll make those first 10 years out of high school, they'll make more money than the professors.
Absolutely.
It is an interesting opportunity, but those have been the main thing. And then a lot the transparency and accountability has been huge. I mean, that we want to know what's going on, what's happening, where's money being spent, all of those things. All of those come together to build a platform that
Martin, if people would like to help you out in your campaign, you know how expensive campaigns are. I just got a quote from my mail out, and I'm like, ooh.
Yes.
But it's very important.
Yes.
But people like to help you out through donations, sign in their yard, holding up signs for you between now and election day. How's the best way to contact you?
Okay, two things. One is go to HoustonForTuscaloosa.com, HoustonForTuscaloosa.com, and they can do a lot of those things, volunteer for a lot of those things there. If there's someone that wants to drive up and pick up something or drop a check off, they can go by our headquarters location,
where are you
1914 University Boulevard, Suite C, right across from Bryant Bank on University, right across from there. And if anyone wants to talk, just like similar to this, on an interview or ask questions, etc., they can call 205-614-8354.
Last question, I'm going to ask you, why should people vote for you?
Well, I believe that I am an option that will help Tuscaloosa move from a good city to a great city for all the people. I believe my diverse background from living in different parts of the city, working in different parts of the city, but also my professional experience of, I've written checks when my team members had to be paid and I didn't get paid. I've had to write vision. Yes, I've had to write vision for an organization. I've had to train, equip, and develop team leaders. I have had a wide variety of opportunities to work in with diverse groups of people. I was part of a ministry that brought together 500 churches, 20-something different denominations to do a mission trip. And I believe that all of those things, along with my love for the city and my passion and willingness to work hard, I don't think anybody would question that. As today I'm a pastor, radio show host, senior director for Alabama One, as a senior director for membership growth. Hard work is not an issue, so I believe that I'm the best choice to move this city forward. We've had 16 years, and if it's not where you want it to be, or you think we can go better, this is an opportunity, truly the first opportunity you've had, I believe, to make a choice that can take us from good to great.
2 weeks, 1 day from the election. I can't wait. It's over. That's Tuesday, March the 2nd. And of course, too late to register to vote, but it's not too late to vote absentee. And it's not too late to make sure you have a change of address form. Many people have moved since the last election, and make it easy for you on election day. Best of luck to you, Martin. It's great to see you again.
And Kip, thank you so much for your time. And regardless of who you vote for, please take advantage of the great privilege we have in this country to elect and choose those who will lead us and serve us. So make sure you go out and vote March 2nd.
Thank you, Martin. Martin Houston, again, candidate for mayor of the city of Tuscaloosa. You can go to Martin Houston. What's your
HoustonForTuscaloosa.com.
HoustonForTuscaloosa.com. We'll be back with Dr. Larry Clayton right after this.